Welcome to the lecture series on network and cybersecurity. This is lecture number 12 from module number 2. So before going through the present lecture, let's see first what all the contents we covered in the previous lecture. So in previous lecture we saw the introduction to the SMIME, that is a secure multipurpose internet mail extension. So in SMIME we studied that it is an extension to the MIME. So it is an improvement to the MIME. It is an enhancement, security enhancement to the MIME internet mail email format standard, which is based on the RSA data security. So we also studied that to understand the SMIME, first we need to go back to the previous and the traditional email formats. So first we need to understand the traditional email formats, and then we will be able to understand the SMIME. So we started with the basic first standard email format, email message format, internet message format, that is the RFC 5322. So we studied that this is considered as a internet message format, and it is having, it will see the message, it will see the, or it will interpret the email as the collection of envelope and the contents. So we saw that RFC 5322 provides the rules or the standards for the contents only, not the envelope. So we also discussed about the format it provides, when we also saw the example of a mail in this RFC 5322 standard format. We saw there are two types or two parts in the message, in the mail, that is the header part and the body part, and we also saw the delimiter or the separator, how we are going to separate this header and the body part of the mail. So after this RFC 5322 we started with MIME. MIME stands for multi-purpose internet mail extension. So where we studied that this is developed to overcome the limitations of the SMTP and RFC 5322. So to understand this, we have to first understand the limitations of the SMTP. So we discussed in the previous class about these limitations of the SMTP. So we discussed the limitations. Some of them are the SMTP cannot transmit the executable files, it is unable to transmit the multimedia files. So it is basically unable to transmit the binary data which is not in the form of ASCII characters. So we also discussed about the problems of translation and problems of compatibility of this SMTP, and then we started with the specifications provided in the MIME to overcome these limitations of the SMTP. So in today's lecture we will start with the MIME specifications that is provided to overcome the limitations in the previous RFCs and the previous standard, that is the SMTP. So the contents covered in this lecture is the MIME header fields and the MIME content types, what all the different multimedia information types it is going to support, and how it is going to transfer from one form to other form in the MIME transfer encoding. So these are some of the MIME standards mentioned that we are going to discuss today. So the outcome of today's lecture is the students will have the better understanding of the MIME protocol. In previous class we just discussed about the overview of the MIME, where we discussed basically the limitations, the purpose of bringing this MIME protocol, that is the limitations of the SMTP. So today we will start with the specifications or the additions that is being added to the MIME to overcome the limitations. So the first specification given in the MIME are the 5 new message header fields are defined. So these header fields are defined. These defined headers can also be included in the RFC 5322 header, which we discussed in the previous class. So these header fields provide information about the content of the body of the message. We discussed in previous class that RFC 5322 basically provides standards only for the contents, not for the envelope. So here also these headers are included in the or added to describe the contents only, not the envelope. So there is no any headers given to describe the envelope. So again these new 5 message headers are included just to describe the content field of the message of the email. So second one is the number of content formats are defined, which will help standardizing the representations of the data in the mail. So here MIME also included the standards for multimedia data or files in the mail transmission. So that means the limitation that we have seen in the SMTP, that it is not supporting the transmission of the multimedia files. So here that limitation is overcome in the MIME by defining the or by giving the standards for the representation of the different multimedia file types. In the third one, transfer encodings are defined. So these transfer encodings will help the conversion of content of the message mail, the content data from one format into the other form, so that the specification helps in protecting from the alterations that will be done by the mail systems for their understanding. So the mail systems will itself transform some of the unreadable file or data types. So to overcome this, the MIME will itself providing the standards for the transformation of the data from one form to other form, which is suitable by the mail system, suitable to the mail systems. So coming to the first specification, the 5 header fields defined in MIME. So these are the 5 header fields. The first one is the MIME version. So this is the value of the version which is to be mentioned here in this field. So generally the value is 1.0 for today. So the first we are mentioning the version of the protocol that we are going to use underlying the mail transmission. The second one is the content type. So this describes the type of data content in the body of the message. So this will help at the receiver side to understand how to deal with this data. The user agent at the receiver side can pick the appropriate mechanism to represent the data that is being transmitted to the user. By looking at the type of data mentioned here in the content type, so the receiver agent will invoke the appropriate steps to display that type of data to the user at the receiver side. So this will help at the receiver side at the most. The third header is the content transfer encoding. So this shows the type of transformation used for the representation of the data in the body of the message. So this transformation should be acceptable to the mail transfer agent. So there are mail transport agent that are going to transport from sender to the receiver. So there are multiple transport agent we will encounter during the transmission from sender to the receiver. So these transport agent should be able to understand this transformation of the content of the mail. So it should be acceptable, the whatever transformation we are doing in the MIME at the sender side, it should be understandable or acceptable to the mail transport agent that are going to help for the delivery of the message from sender to the receiver. So according to that, transformation is chosen. So there are number of transformations given or defined in the MIME. So we will discuss about that later. And the fourth header is the content ID, which is used to identify the MIME entities or the contents that we have added in the mail So there is a unique ID given to the MIME content. So this unique ID is used in the multiple contexts. Actually, this is an optional field, but it will help in some contexts. We can skip this at the receiver side, but in some of the situations, this content ID will help at the receiver side. So it is again used in the sender side to mention the ID of the content of the mail to uniquely identify that email content. This next one, the fifth one, is the content description. So this is the description of the message that is being transmitted. So we are going to describe the type of content that we are going to send or transmit from the sender to the receiver. So this is again an optional field, but in some situations this will help, especially when we are transmitting the non-readable files, for example audio files, video files. So there it may need some description about the content that we are going to transmit from sender to receiver. So we are going to add the description of the message. So this is again optional, and these optional fields can be ignored by the receiver. And there are two optional fields, two optional header fields among these 5 header fields, and those are content ID and the content description. These two are optional fields which can be ignored by the receiver. So coming to the content types. So this MIME is actually more worried about the definition of this variety of content types available. So it is very much necessary to provide the standardized ways to represent the different types of information in multimedia environment. There are a number of different types of informations available: text, audio, video, image. So these all different types has to be mentioned, or the standards are required to represent these different types of informations. So that was not there in the SMTP. So that's why it was unable to transmit it from through the mail, through the internet. So those are all described in the MIME. The table here shows the different varieties of information. There are actually 7 major types or general types of information given here in this table. So this column represents the general information type, and in this general information we again see the subtypes. So there are totally 15 types of information that we can define here in MIME for the transmission of the mail, of the desired contents. So there are total of 15 types. Text type, the first one here, the text type is most basic type of information. So there is no any need of special software to understand or to represent this text. But one thing is, there should be the character set available in your system at the sender side and at the receiver side, available to indicate this text. For example, the ASCII characters set. So if your system is having that character set, then it will be easy for the representation of the text in the ASCII values. So there is no any need of special software, but there is a need of a character set present in your system. So again, in these text type we can see 2 subtypes. First one is the plain and second one is the enriched. The first one is the plain, in which the characters are unformatted text and may be the ASCII values or in ISO format. So these are the basic ASCII characters. But in enriched type, it will provide the greater format flexibility, where we can use some symbols other than the ASCII characters. Coming to the second part, the second major type of content, that is the multipole. Again, in multi-part we have different types of subtypes, basically 4 different subtypes given here. So let's see one by one. So this multi-part basically is used to indicate that the body contains the multiple and independent parts. The body of the message contains the multiple and independent parts. We just need to indicate the separation of these parts. So content type header field has a parameter. For example, the boundary is a parameter used in the or mentioned in the header field to separate these multiple parts which are independent. So this parameter mentioned in the header field will define the separation of these different parts in the body. But the thing is, this boundary should not appear in any part of the message. So whatever we are mentioning as a separator in the header field of the mail, so it should not appear as a part of the message. Otherwise the mail agent will consider that as the end of the part and there will be the loss of information. So one care we should take that the boundary should not appear in any part of the message. So each boundary starts on a new line and consists of a hyphens followed by the boundary value, and the final boundary showing the end of the last part of the body also has a suffix of 2 hyphens. So to show this multi-part, we have one example here. So from to subject MIME version. So this is a all header part, and next there is a new header added, MIME version 1.0, and then we started with the content type. So here we are mentioning the content type as a multi-part mixed. For example, we will see what is this mixed. So multi-part, we are discussing about the multi-part. So here in content type we are mentioning that the type of the content in the message is a multi-part, and we are also defining the boundary. So what are the characters we are using as a boundary, as a delimiter? So the characters used are the simple boundary. So these 2 words are used to mention or as a boundary in the message to differentiate between the different parts of the message. So from here, from this line, the actual message starts. So this is one para or one part of the message, and after this there is a boundary with hyphen. So first the hyphen and then the boundary value in a new line. So after this boundary there is a new second part of the message, and again this part is separated with the next part by the boundary with the hyphen. First hyphen and then the boundary value that we have declared here in the header part, and after this boundary in the next line starts the next part. But here again we are defining this part with a separate header, that this part is having a type of information that is text plain. So the type of information that is present in this part of the body is a text plain information type, and we are also mentioning the character set that is available with our system, that is the US ASCII characters of the United States. So this is explicit, this part is the again one more message or one more part of the message, and after this there is a last part, and that is separated by the boundary value with 2 hyphens. So up to this we can see that there is only one hyphen at the beginning, but at the last part we can see there is a delimiter or the boundary with 2 hyphens, one at the beginning and one at the end, showing that this is the last part of the body. So this is an example to show about the multi-part. So in this multi-part again we have different subtypes. The first one is the mixed. So this type is basically used to show that different parts are independent but are to be transmitted together. They should be presented at the receiver in the order that they appear in the mail message. So in mixed type, it shows that there are different parts are available in the message and which are independent, but those all parts should be transmitted to the receiver side in order. There should not be any change in the order. The delivery of the message should be in order to the receiver side. So that is indicated by this mixed subtype. The second subtype is the parallel. Here it differs from mixed only in that no order is defined for delivering the parts to the receiver. We can deliver the different parts simultaneously parallelly to the receiver side when we are using this subtype. So one example we can give here for the parallel delivery of different parts of the message is we have a text, we have an audio or an image, and all is delivered parallelly to the receiver side, which is the narration of the text or the image. So in those kind of mail transmission, this subtype is used. The next one is the alternate, multi-part alternate. So here the different parts are alternate versions of the same information. Are alternate versions of the same information. They are ordered in increasing faithfulness to the original, and the recipient's mail system should display the best version to the user. So in this alternate part, it shows the different representations of the same information. The same information is represented in different methods or different representations, which is having the same meaning, and we take that as a different part of the same message or the same email. And these parts are arranged with increasing preferences. And if the recipient's system supports higher information type, it will show the higher alternative to the receiver. Otherwise, only the text. For example, so we have one mail being transmitted from the sender to the receiver, which is the information of one situation. So in describing that situation, in first part of the mail, we will just write the text information about that situation, and that part is separated by the boundary with another part. In that another part, we are using the higher type of information with image. So we are placing one image and we are writing the text about that situation. So here we are we are sending a mail from sender to the receiver about one situation. So in the first part of the mail, we are only using the text format, and in the second part of the mail, we are using both image and text part. So if the recipient's mail system is having the support to display that image, then it will deliver the second part to the receiver, and the mail agent at the receiver side will display only the second part of the mail with which is having the image and text. If it is unable to display or unable to show the image, then it will show only the first part of the mail, which is having only the text. So both are having the same information, but represented in different way in the increasing preferences. Coming to the next subtype, that is the digest. So it is similar to the mixed subtype, but the default type or subtype of each part is message or RFC 822. So this subtype is used when each part is interpreted as a separate message with headers. So it is used when each part of the body is interpreted as a separate message with headers. For example, a message whose parts are independent to each other. There is one mail which is having multiple parts, but they are independent to each other. Each part is independent of each other. For example, a mail which is having a consolidation of all or collection of different emails. So we are sending one mail which is having the collection of different mail messages. So each part of the mail is a different mail, so which are independent to each other, but we are collecting those mails messages and we are consolidating it, or we are sending it as a collection as another mail. So in those kind of conditions we can use this subtype, the digest, which is having the multi-part which are independent to each other. Now coming to the next one, the next major type is the message. So this is again an important type of information supported by the MIME, message. So in that, the first subtype is RFC 822. Basically this message is used to indicate that the body is an entire message including the header and the body. So the body is itself an encapsulated message that conforms to RFC 822. So the body is itself an entire message including the header that will obey the RFC 822 rules or standards according to the RFC 822 standards. The second one is the partial subtype. So this type helps to make the fragments of the long messages into number of parts, and it must be reassembled at the destination. So partial is used to allow fragmentation of large mail items in a way that is transparent to the recipient. That means we are providing the facility to make the fragments of the long message into number of parts, and each part should be reassembled at the destination correctly. And to do this we need to add some more information about this fragmentation that we are going to do at the sender part. So some more parameters has to be included in the header field of the content type. For example, we need some parameter to know that these parts are of the same message. We are taking one big message and we are making the parts, small parts in that. So there should be a parameter to indicate that these all parts are of the same message. So an ID, a message ID, is used as a common ID to all these fragments of the same message. So one ID is given to that message, and that ID, the same ID, is applied to each part of the message to indicate that these all parts belong to the same original message. But we are transmitting those all parts in different order. So to rearrange at the receiver side according to the order, we need a sequence number which is unique to each part or fragment. The parameter, there is a parameter available to mention this sequence number to each part of the message. And there is one more parameter required just to know whether there are any skip or any non-delivery of the fragments. To indicate that, we need one more parameter. That parameter is the total number of fragments that is being transmitted from the sender to the receiver. So at the receiver, he will receive all the parts of the message, of the same message, and then he will compare the total number of received to the total number of fragments header part. If the total number of packets or the total number of parts received matches with the header value indicating the total number of fragments sent by the sender, then it will indicate that there is no any loss of fragment during the transmission from sender to the receiver. So these all extra information we need to add in the header field of the email when we are using this partial subtype. The next one is the external body. So this subtype is used to indicate that the mail body does not contain the actual data to be transmitted or conveyed to the receiver side, but instead the body contains the information needed to access the data. We are not mentioning we are not writing, we are not typing, we are not adding the actual message in the mail, but we are adding some link or some additional information which can be used by the receiver to retrieve or to access the actual data which he desires. For example, we put the link of the information that is that should be conveyed to the receiver. We put the link and we mail the link to the receiver, and the receiver will receive that link and he will click on that link to get the actual message that has been sent to the receiver. So this is in those conditions we use this type of subtype. Next, the image is in the JPEG format or JF/IF encoding. So in that, if that is the mail that we are going to transmit from the sender to the receiver, this is the subtype that is mentioned, or the GIF, depending on the type of the image that is being sent through the mail from sender to receiver. And the MPEG format, the video, and next the audio, the basic type of audio, 8-bit ISDN mu-law encoding, which is sampled at the rate of 8 kilohertz. So MPEG and these basic values or the encodings are used for the audio and the video transmission. But in later versions or the new versions of the MIME, we can add, or it has been added, the different formats of videos and audios also. But in this version, basic version of the MIME, these are the formats that will support for the video and the audio transmission through the mail, through internet. And the last one is the application, PostScript and the octet string. So this indicates to the other types of data. This application type will indicate the other types of data which is not properly interpreted by the MIME protocol, but these data is in the binary data and which is properly understood by the mail based application that we are using in our system for the mail transmission. So these are the types of data which are not understood by the MIME. So if there are any information that is being transmitted through the mail which is not understood by the MIME, then this type of these subtypes are used to indicate the content of the mail, that it is not interpreted by the MIME protocol. So the receiver and the sender mail applications only will understand this type of data. So this is what it indicates. So these are the different content types described in the MIME, which covers all types of data, all major types of data, that is text, image, video, audio and other type of applications. Coming to the next one, MIME transfer encoding. So this is one more important specification mentioned in the MIME, and the purpose of this specification is to provide the reliable delivery across the different platforms and environments of the message. So here the standards and definitions are mentioned for the transformation of the message bodies. So here the table shows the content transfer encodings. The first three indicate the 7-bit, 8-bit and the binary. These first three types of transfer encodings indicate that no encoding has been done here, but it provides us some information about the nature of the data that is being transmitted from the sender to the receiver. For example, the first one, the 7-bit form, is most suitable for the SMTP transfers. The data are represented by the short lines of ASCII characters. So we already discussed in the previous class that SMTP will understand only the ASCII characters. So these 7-bit ASCII characters are, so this type of representation of the data is suitable for the SMTP. SMTP transfers. So we are not encoding here, but we are just mentioning the data in this format. So in the same way, the 8-bit and the binary, so these two can be used for the other mail transport contents. So here again the lines are short, but there may be non-ASCII characters which are mentioned in the 8-bit value. And again the binary value, here again non-ASCII characters can be represented here, but the lines are necessarily short enough for the SMTP. But the most suitable type of transfer encoding or the transfer type is the 7-bit for the SMTP. Next, the quoted printable. So this, in this encoding, it encodes the data in such a way that if the data being encoded are mostly ASCII text, the encoded form of the data remains largely recognizable by humans. So this is useful when the data is mostly ASCII text. When the data we are transmitting to the receiver is ASCII text, most of the data. And other than ASCII characters, if there are any present in the body, then those are represented by the hexadecimal values. And the encoded message is readable by the humans. If we are using this encoding, after encoding, the encoded form of the data can be readable by the humans. So that is one advantage. The next one is the base 64. So this is also known as a radix 64, which we have already discussed in our previous lectures, and this while discussing about the PGP, because this radix 64 encoding is also used in the PGP, which encodes data by mapping 6-bit blocks of input to 8-bit blocks of output, all of which are printable ASCII characters. So while discussing about the PGP compatibility, we discussed that all binary codes are converted into the radix 64 ASCII values. So here also it is mentioned in the MIME. So this type of transfer encoding is used when most of the data is binary in form. So when binary data is being transmitted, then radix 64 or base 64 is the transfer encoding used. The next one, the last transfer encoding is the X token, which indicates some other encoding schemes. Some other encoding scheme is used for which a name is to be specified here. So here the name is not specified, they have just given a general name, but we can replace this with one name which we are going to use depending on the application or the vendor. So this transfer encoding depends on the vendor specific, or it is a vendor specific or the application specific. So depending on the application and the vendor, there may be a different transfer encoding used, and so we just need to mention that name here. So that is also provided in the MIME. This facility is also provided in the MIME, that we can use our own transfer encoding. So here we just need to mention its name and characters. So this is about the transfer encodings supported by the MIME. So coming to the end of the lecture, in today's class we discussed about the MIME and its headers. What are the different 5 headers extra added in the MIME, and what are the different contents type defined in the MIME, and what all the specifications given for the transfer encodings, and what is the purpose of providing this standard for transfer encodings. So we discussed all this in this lecture. So in next lecture we will start discussing about the SMIME. So till now we discussed about the RFC 5322, we discussed about MIME. So using those information we will start discussing about the SMIME, where we will see that the SMIME is the extension of the security provided in the MIME. Okay, thank you.